use it till she gets here. I put it on my stuff. I know, me too. It's the empty chair. No, actually, I don't. Academy of Promise. Oh, did you get an extra one? Oh, okay.
That's not me.
Hi, good morning. Good to see you.
It's 9 o'clock on the dot.
Wow.
Good morning and welcome to Governor State University. I just wanted to mention that unfortunately, Dr. Cheryl Green, our president, got called away at the last moment and wasn't able to be with us today. But I know she's thinking about us and she was very excited about this event. So I'd just like to take a moment to do a little housekeeping. If anyone needs to use the restrooms, they're right down the hallway where the sign says Center for Performing Arts. And also, as you notice, there's several tables in the exterior of the room, and if you haven't already visited them, hope you could stop by after the program's over. There's a lot of helpful information about stroke prevention and awareness and other health issues. Governor Pritzker had planned to be with us today, but again, he was called away at the last moment. But we are extremely honored to have Lieutenant Governor Juliana Stratton with us today. She is here to highlight the importance of stroke awareness and the prevention campaign that will be taking place in the Southland. So again, thank you, Lieutenant Governor. So right now, to learn more about the program, I would like to introduce Dr. Tonya Roberson, GSU's Director of Community Engagement. Dr. Roberson.
Thank you for that introduction, Maureen. Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Governor State University. I want to personally thank each of you for joining us for this historic occasion as we raise stroke awareness during Black History Month. I really appreciate you all for coming down to commemorate this important piece of legislation. And with so many of you being here, it proves that you all know the importance of this bill. The Stroke Education and Awareness House Bill number 5014. Now, I don't even play the lottery, but I'm going to play that number this evening, 5014. When I think about the reason behind why I am such an advocate for stroke education, I think about a lot of things that are important to me. I think about my work, my family and health history, the importance of health education, promoting self-advocacy, collective impact, and survivorship. Working as the Director of Community Engagements in the College of Health and Human Services here at Governor State University and studying the impact of disease and inconsistencies as a community psychologist, I have always seen the pattern of healthcare inequities that exist in the United States between Blacks and whites that are substantial. And with the overlay of the coronavirus and the magnitude of the spread, the inequities have increased. And even though this is a celebratory occasion, the motive behind why this bill was generated is not one to celebrate. Because stroke is the leading cause of death of all Americans, but the risk of having the first stroke is nearly twice as high for Blacks as it is for whites. And Blacks have the highest death and disability rates due to stroke. And so why is this always a pattern? The fact that Blacks are almost disproportionately impacted by everything that happens. When you think about chronic diseases with stroke at the top of the list, diabetes, gun violence, COVID-19, and I could go on and on. It's not because that there's something wrong with Black people, but there's something wrong with the systems, and that's where the change actually takes place. And this is not new news. In March of 1955, at a convention for the Medical Committee of Human Rights held in Chicago, Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King declared, of all forms of inequalities, injustice in healthcare is the most shocking and inhumane. Now, that was over 6 decades ago that he made this quote. And today, the same thing is still happening. And although some strides have been made, there's still a lot of work that needs to be done. That's why it was so important for me to have played a major role in the development of the proposal for this bill, in a collective partnership with State Representative Debbie Meyers-Martin. Our community engagement and intentional ways of working together to address issues identified by our community members to impact health disparities was by far the shining star of our work together. This partnership started out of passion with the mission to develop an education and prevention program. The Stroke Awareness Campaign also paves ways for Governor State University, a minority-serving institute, College of Health and Human Services, to collaborate with other academic and medical institutions and community-based organizations to develop an outreach and educational program to raise awareness of stroke prevention, and eliminate death and disabilities. And this will be done through promoting education, educating the causes, the signs and symptoms, the treatment, self-advocacy, and recovery support within the Chicago Southland community. Education is a significant social determinant that influences health over the course of a lifetime. And health education will be a large component of the stroke education and awareness campaign. Education is an individual's most valuable asset, and it gives people the tools that they need to lead fulfilling lives. It gives them options, thrive personally, and make informed decisions, and contribute to their communities. The t-shirt I have on today reads, "Some people never meet their hero. Mine raised me." I support stroke awareness because families like mine and many other families have been touched by this issue. My mother, Dorothy Roberson, is a Governor State alumna, and she had her second stroke in 2016. She is a fortunate 85-and-a-half-year-old woman, and in her words, she would say, "I'm still here." And she is here with us today, and I'm so grateful for that. I want to end by giving another big thanks to State Representative Debbie Meyers-Martin, and thank you, Lieutenant Governor Juliana Stratton, for coming out. This will be a collective impact, and I would also like to thank some of the people that have supported us thus far, and if you're here, please stand. The College of Health and Human Services Interdisciplinary Team and Dean Catherine Balthazar, the National Council on Black Health, Dr. Linda Ray Murray and Project Brotherhood, the Far South Chicago Coalition, Dr. Natasha Washington and the Serious Program, Community Engagement for Early Recognition and Immediate Action in Stroke Program, and our very own Governor State University President, Dr. Cheryl Green. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Roberson. And you know, that's how legislation is made. Constituents talk to their elected officials and they talk about an issue or a problem and they have a solution and they collaborate, and that's how good lawmaking comes about. So we're really happy that this has been able to happen and it's going to benefit our area. Before I go on, I'd like to recognize a few people. We have two of our Governor State trustees in the audience today, Annabelle Taboas and Jim Kaderis. So thank you for being with us today. We also have Cook County Commissioner Donna Miller. Thank you, Donna. I know we have a number of local mayors, trustees, and other elected officials, so thank you all very much for being with us today. We appreciate it. And now it's my great pleasure to introduce the author and sponsor of the Stroke Prevention and Awareness legislation, a great friend of Governor State University, State Representative Debbie Meyers-Martin.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today. I truly appreciate your interest and your engagement in this very important issue, not only for the Southland, but for the entire state. So I appreciate you taking the time to come out. I also want to thank Dr. Cheryl Green, the president of Governor State University, and Governor State for hosting us here today. And I really want to thank Lieutenant Governor Juliana Stratton for being here with us and helping to celebrate the launch of this important initiative. And I think that it is so appropriate for her to be here because this is Black History Month, and she's certainly a history maker. But also we are going into Women's History Month, and certainly we would want to celebrate her achievement as well. I also want to thank Committeeman Calvin Jordan for being here today, but also supporting me in all of the work that I do for the Southland, and in particular the 38th District. I want to thank Tonya Roberson, who actually worked with me to collaborate on the language for this bill, and I'll just, and certainly Mrs. Roberson, who was the inspiration for us working together. Back in 2018, even before I arrived at the General Assembly, I had been approached about this important issue of stroke awareness, stroke education. And I began to seek information about the issue. And then during the summer of 2019, I met Dr. Roberson, and she talked about her mom and that she had suffered a stroke and just the things that she had experienced as a result of that. My desire to create legislation to address this issue then became even more important to me, but I was unsure of what the legislation should include. So we began a collaborative experience so that I could put the right elements in the bill that would address the issues that we needed to address when it came to the treatment and the timing of a stroke victim's experience, because timing is everything. So Dr. Roberson provided the statistics that African Americans are 50% more likely to have a stroke as compared to their white counterparts. That Black men are 70% more likely to die from a stroke as compared to their non-Hispanic white counterparts. African American women are twice as likely to have a stroke as compared to their non-Hispanic white counterparts. So without sufficient health literacy knowledge, community members will not be able to recognize or determine a health event that is an emergency or a trauma, or even know what or how to help or to communicate what is going on with their loved one. So timing indeed is everything in determining whether someone is having a stroke, if they recover from a stroke fully, or just what those long-lasting effects will be. So the language of the bill states that it amends the Department of Public Health Powers and Duties Law of Civil Administrative Code of Illinois. It requires that the Illinois Department of Public Health should partner with Governor State University's Department on Health and Human Services in establishing a 12-month campaign focusing on promoting stroke awareness for select communities determining to be at risk for strokes, particularly in the Chicago Southland. We want our focus to include stroke recognition and prevention strategies, as well as access to reliable sources of information about strokes. Now, this bill is subject to appropriations, but I'm happy to say that I am currently working with the Appropriations for Human Services Chair, Representative Camille Lilly, in order to make that happen in 2023. I'm also happy to report that Franciscan Health Hospital in Olympia Fields has been redesignated as an acute stroke-ready hospital. And that is so important for our Southland region. During the pandemic, it became quite apparent that there are health disparities in communities of color. And we want to begin to address those disparities. So I am so proud of this effort, and again, cannot thank Governor State University and President Green, Dr. Roberson enough for their receptiveness and their enthusiasm and their energy as we pushed this bill forward. And for all of my colleagues that signed on as co-sponsors, and to Senator Adrienne Johnson, who sponsored the bill in the Senate. And so I had a lot of help in doing this, but your presence and the enthusiasm that I feel from the community proves that it was the right thing to do. So thank you so much again for your being here.
Next up, we have our guest speaker, Dr. Natasha Washington. She has a long and very, very impressive resume. She serves as the president and CEO of ATW Health Solutions, a healthcare advisory and research innovations firm based in Chicago. I'm going to let her go on a little bit more about herself. So please join me in welcoming Dr. Natasha Washington.
Thank you so much, Maureen, and to the esteemed panel here today. As introduced, I'm Dr. Natasha Washington. I'm also a proud alumni of Governor State University. Back in 2014, I went on to begin an entrepreneurial journey. That journey started ATW Health Solutions, which really focuses on quality, safety, and health equity. When I remember my years being here and thinking as I was going through the Master's of Health Administration program that I wanted to run a hospital. But ultimately, as God saw fit, I would take what I learned and I would apply it in a new way, in an innovative way that actually drives outcomes and, improved outcomes in our community. And so I'm excited about this work. Within these very walls, I have celebrated many achievements, and today, yet another achievement. I first want to bring some context to why stroke education is so critically important. So Dr. Roberson made reference to the community engagement for early recognition and immediate action in stroke. The short name for it is SERIES. Back in 2014, I was contacted by two neurologists, one at Rush University and the other at Northwestern. Uh, Both Dr. Neelam Agarwal and Dr. Shyam Parakaran had been studying the statistics here in the state of Illinois to look at the prevalence of stroke. And they identified a very unique issue. While we know that stroke disparities exist, what we didn't understand was some of the underlying reasons why. And so, as their epidemiologists shared data with me, what I became knowledgeable of back in 2014 was the fact that there was a greater portion of hospitalizations and deaths occurring in the southern part of Illinois, meaning the Southland of Illinois, Southland, Cook County. They said, we would like to, one, understand what's going on in the community, and two, we'd like to partner with you to build an intervention that potentially would help improve outcomes. And in doing that, here's what I learned. Number one, I called folks like Dr. Roberson. I called folks like Hazel Kolar. Even Ms. Dorothy was a part of our Stroke Promoters Program back then in 2014. We went out into the community and we talked to people to help us understand why we were seeing so many hospitalizations, yet also so many deaths when we have certified stroke centers in our area, an adequate level, when we have 911 legislation in place where if you call 911, you actually will be dispatched to the nearest stroke center. And so we're perplexed at what are some of the behavioral issues that might be driving the reason why we're continuing to see deaths among Blacks and people of color in general. Here's what I found. In hosting focus groups, we learned that people were not calling 911 because they were afraid of the police. We learned that people were not calling 911 because of their fear of having to take care of the ambulance bill, that $500 bill that they would get in the mail. We learned that people, because of their lack of trust in our health system in general, that these people would wait all day until their neighbors returned home or their family members returned home from a full day at work before they would even seek care. Why is this critically important? Because as Senator Meyers-Martin mentioned, this is a time-sensitive disease. You have 3.5 hours to get to care. And if those individuals that are able to get to care timely enough, many of these symptoms are reversible. And so we hit the streets and we partnered with folks like pioneers in this work, Bishop Larry Trotter, Bishop Simon Gordon, Apostle Carl White and the Southland Ministerial Network, and a host of other educators, civic leaders across the area to do two things. One, develop co-created education that helped to break the myths that people were actually they were taking action on. So their misunderstanding, misinformation was causing what we were seeing in terms of hospitalizations and deaths in the area. Fast forward to 2022, that project ended in 2018. During the height of COVID, I called Tonya again. I said, we got to hit the streets again. And that's because we knew that we had gained some leverage during our first campaign. Our first campaign, as a result of working with Advocate Trinity, with Holy Cross, and other hospitals in our area, we actually saw that more Black men got to care faster. We saw that younger people, because stroke does impact all ages, got to care faster. And so we knew that this educational intervention was key. And what was also key was the messenger. And so I so appreciate what you've done with the legislation in terms of community education, because it's really about the community being activated as well. And so as I leave you, I want you to think of this effort as a very unique partnership, a partnership where you have very large, well-funded, credible organizations that reached out to partner with subject matter experts like myself, that then tapped into community experts like Dr. Roberson and others to activate a full system to now bring it forward to 2023, where we see this legislation, this key piece of legislation being put in place in the state of Illinois. And so I want to thank you for your efforts. Senator Meyers-Martin. I want to thank you, Dr. Green, not present, but the GSU faculty. I want to thank you to the office of the governor and its work, and most certainly Dr. Roberson, for your tireless efforts in bringing this back full circle so that the people of Illinois are impacted positively. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Washington. Now, pitch hitting for President Green, we have our very own GSU Provost, Dr. Beverly Schneller.
Good morning, everyone. As Maureen Kelly mentioned, I am Beverly Schneller. I'm the Provost and Vice President for Academic Affairs. I bring greetings to you, of course, on behalf of President Green, who was unable to attend today. And as the Provost, I want to call your attention to the tables around you here that are surrounding this event in just a tiny bit more detail, because they're staffed by the faculty of the College of Health and Human Services. They're staffed by staff members in our Veterans Affairs program and our students. And so I really encourage you all to take a few moments and speak with the attendees here from the university to get a better idea of the holistic approach that we take to education of our students, and particularly those students who are in the College of Health and Human Services. We are greatly honored today to have Lieutenant Governor Juliana Stratton with us, Representative Debbie Meyers-Martin, the elected officials, our trustees, our GSU colleagues, and friends of the community who have come today to join us in this important event. It is certainly my pleasure to welcome you all to Governor State University, the jewel of the Southland. This is our new jewel, right? So I'll hold it up in case you can't see it too well. This is our new jewel of the Southland. So this is our traveling prop, just in case anyone forgets. So we are certainly honored to welcome Lieutenant Governor Stratton back to Governor State University to call attention to stroke awareness and prevention in the Southland region. But before I continue with these remarks, I want to take a moment to publicly thank Governor J.B. Pritzker and Lieutenant Governor Stratton for their fiscal year 2024 budget recommendations and support of higher education. We all appreciate what we heard in the governor's address in the State of the State and his budget address on February 15th. Governor Pritzker, as many of you know, presented a proposed increase to funding for Illinois' public universities at the rate of 7%. We can do this again. This is the highest recommended increase in funding for higher education in 20 years. which represents the administration's commitment to higher education and to the success of our GSU students. We're indeed fortunate, especially in the climate of higher education today, to have such support at the gubernatorial level in Illinois for higher education and specifically for Governor State University. We look forward in the coming months to future conversations on how we can continue to grow and sustain equitable and accessible higher learning opportunities for all students in Illinois, and particularly for our students here at Governor State. So, Lieutenant Governor Stratton, we thank you. As you know, we're also highly honored today to have State Representative Debbie Meyers-Martin with us, a friend of Governor State University who's here quite often. And she, as you know from our prior speakers and from the history of this particular legislation, has worked closely with us to author and develop and then sponsor the stroke awareness bill that we're looking at today and celebrating. We are particularly grateful that in her role as a representative, she has chosen from among the colleges, universities, hospitals, treatment clinics, medical facilities to prioritize Governor State University. Legislators have a very difficult job. They are constantly being pitched, they're constantly being asked, and they're constantly having people running up in front of them and saying, here's my most important need. And we don't take for granted the fact that you have chosen us to be your partner in these efforts, and that you have chosen Dr. Roberson, our College of Health and Human Services, to prioritize with this bill, which specifically focuses on our Southland community, which is our service area, and narrows the whole legislation on Governor State University and the excellence of the faculty, students, and staff you see surrounding you today here at this event. With their shared concern for community health, especially in our region, as Representative Meyers-Martin said, this new law establishes a 12-month outreach and educational campaign focused on promoting stroke awareness and prevention and providing access to reliable sources of information about strokes. One of the things our prior speakers haven't really touched on is the relationship between better health and education. And it starts with, as Dr. Washington mentioned in her remarks, access to health literacy. And what that means is helping people understand at the most basic level what their doctors are saying to them. If you've been in that situation yourself, if you've been with others when they have been in a serious health situation, you know you get that buzz in your ears that says, I can see them talking, but I don't remember what they say. And so having prepared nurses, staff members, stroke prevention experts, EMTs, pharmacists who can come back and help you parse and understand that information is so important in making sure that the education that people need reaches them to improve their health and to improve our ability to prevent strokes. Other areas in which education efforts focus are on nutrition, on exercise, on weight management, and then on avoiding smoking, of course, and other things that would lead to chronic illnesses. But part of that, as Dr. Washington said, is simply getting that message out to people. I would also like to acknowledge and thank Dr. Roberson and Dr. Balthazar, the Dean of our GSU College of Health and Human Services, and the members of the college for their ongoing leadership in providing healthcare professionals for the Southland and beyond. GSU's College of Health and Human Services is committed to partnering with community organizations and public health advocates to develop and deliver a culturally tailored education campaign to increase public awareness of the signs and symptoms of strokes. This work is bringing attention to stroke awareness and prevention, and we will educate our community so much better, and we anticipate saving many lives as a result of what we are able to accomplish here today. And now it's my pleasure to introduce Lieutenant Governor Juliana Stratton. She is serving as the 48th Lieutenant Governor of Illinois. She is dedicated and highly qualified for this role, committed to showing that the way we move forward is together. In this role, Lieutenant Governor Stratton leans on empathy and expertise to open doors and expand pathways, uplifting communities statewide. She brings her visionary leadership to more than a dozen councils, commissions, boards, and agencies as a chair or an executive liaison. These span the Illinois Council on Women and Girls, the Governor's Rural Affairs Council, the Military Economic Development Council, and the Rivers Coordinating Council. Among several other responsibilities, Lieutenant Governor Stratton's portfolio includes overseeing the administration's Justice, Equity, and Opportunity Initiative, chairing the board of the Restore, Reinvest, and Renew program, and leading office initiatives that address the needs of the people of Illinois, ranging from efforts to build a strong, diverse teacher pipeline to the Ag Connects Us All Agricultural Equity and Food Insecurity Initiative. You hear in that a theme, right? Equity, accessibility, access, of which healthcare fits so nicely as a justice and a social justice issue as well. She currently serves as chair of the National Lieutenant Governors Association. She's actively engaged with the Chicago Network, Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated, and the Links Incorporated. In what free time she has, and we can ask how that happens later, she enjoys running, cooking, and spending time with her husband, Brian, and her 4 daughters. Stratton obviously loves and manifests love for the state of Illinois, the people of Illinois, and engaging in work that will make Illinois the best for the next generation. Please join me in a warm Governor State Jaguar welcome for Lieutenant Governor Juliana Stratton. Thank you.
Good morning, and thank you so much for that warm introduction. Good morning, everyone, and happy Black History Month. Yeah, that's worth an applause. I am Lieutenant Governor Juliana Stratton. I use she, her pronouns, and thank you, Dr. Sneller, for that warm introduction. And thank you for mentioning the increased funding in the governor's FY24 budget address just last week. I want to just add to that because you talked about the increased funding to higher education. It also includes more funding for MAP grants so more students can attend college and not be saddled with debt. So that's an exciting piece. Thank you for that. I certainly want to acknowledge the highly qualified president of Governor State University, Dr. Cheryl Green, in her absence. And I also want to just say that Governor Pritzker and I are so grateful for her leadership. And when you see her, tell her that we said that we appreciate all that she does to lift up higher education and Governor State University in particular. I want to thank the trustees of Governor State University, Dr. Kathy Balthazar, Dean of the College of Health and Human Services, Dr. Roberson, to all of the elected officials joining us today, including the mayors who are dedicated to serving communities in this region. Thank you for joining us today. And to the passionate healthcare professionals, community leaders, partners, educators, and students, thank you all for what you do every single day to move our state forward. Thank you for the commitment to the work that will ensure that people's needs are seen and heard equitably so that all have the resources to live healthy and well. Everyone plays a role in this work, and we are at a critical moment where we can dig in and make change together. You know, my family, Representative Meyers-Martin, has also been personally touched by this issue. And I just want to thank you for your partnership and your leadership, because it's going to really save lives. You know, the reality is that far too many lives are disrupted or cut short by strokes in this country. Black and brown communities, families bear the brunt of this pain and trauma. Black people have the highest rate of death due to stroke, are nearly 2 times more likely to have a stroke compared with their white counterparts. And there's a shocking statistic that I've come to recognize as a Black woman and as the mother of 4 Black daughters. And that is that 59% of Black women over the age of 20 are living with cardiovascular disease. 59%, which means that as you think about any room where you see Black women, almost 60% are living with cardiovascular disease and an increased risk for stroke. This is unacceptable. In fact, this is preventable. And we must act. And in Illinois, we are taking steps to address this crisis. And that's why I want to take a moment to shine a light on my friends and former colleagues in the General Assembly, particularly State Representative Debbie Meyers-Martin, who sponsored House Bill 5014. This act empowers the students and faculty of Governor State University to continue the work of promoting public health so that you can push forward and make an even greater difference by bringing awareness and providing information on strokes for communities most affected. This is how we create a better future, by joining forces and ensuring all voices are heard and are part of the conversation. Just know that our administration stands with you because we recognize that quality, accessible healthcare is a right, not a privilege. And that's why Governor Pritzker has outlined robust investments in our state's healthcare system in the proposed fiscal year 24 budget. From expanding and supporting the healthcare workforce, especially in underserved regions of Illinois, to bolstering our public health infrastructure, we are focused on improving health outcomes for our most vulnerable. I know that this is a mission that is important to each of you here today. The Southland Stroke Prevention and Awareness Campaign is a major stride that will bring us closer to health equity for all, and I commend your hard work and your care in this journey. This is a turning point that will have lasting impacts for this region, for the families and communities whose lives you will touch, and lives again will be saved. And I personally can't think of a better way to celebrate Black history than saving Black lives. Let me say that again. I can't think of a better way to celebrate Black history than saving Black lives. So I can't wait to see how far you will go, and just know we will be right there with you. We're already conspiring up here. I've been whispering and saying we need to do some things on a statewide basis, so we'll be having conversations about that, working in partnership with Governor State University. And so with that, I would now like to present the proclamation. And I will read the proclamation in its entirety. Please be patient with me. Whereas stroke is the 5th leading cause of death and the leading cause of adult disability in the United States, according to the American Stroke Association and American Heart Association. And whereas stroke is a leading cause of serious long-term disability and reduces mobility in more than half of stroke survivors age 65 and older. And whereas, according to the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, risk of having a first stroke is nearly twice as high for Black people as white people. And whereas Black people have the highest rate of death due to stroke, strokes are happening at younger ages, and risk factors like high blood pressure, high cholesterol, obesity, and diabetes are happening at younger ages. And whereas about 80% of strokes are preventable, reducing stroke risk factors and improving the quality of stroke care are needed to continue the decline in stroke deaths. And whereas there is great racial and economic diversity in the Southland, home to much of the region's African-American suburban population. Therefore, I, J.B. Pritzker, Governor of the State of Illinois, do hereby proclaim February 24th, 2023, as Southland Stroke Prevention and Awareness Day, in recognition of Public Act 102-1070, the Southland Stroke Prevention and Awareness Campaign, partnering the faculty, staff, and students of Governor State University's College of Health and Human Services with the Illinois Department of Public Health to develop a culturally tailored education campaign to increase public awareness of the signs and symptoms of strokes, important actions to take when someone is having a stroke, and ways to prevent strokes from happening. Signed, Governor J.B. Pritzker. You need to move down. Okay. I probably did this too soon, but it's okay. We'll go a little more. All right. Turn it back over to Maureen, which I was supposed to. All right, I know that we are going to be closing the program shortly, but I do want to turn it back over to Maureen Kelly to close us out. Thank you.
Thank you so very much, Lieutenant Governor. It really has been an exciting day in the Southland, an exciting day for Governor State University. We're absolutely thrilled and honored to have the Lieutenant Governor here, Representative Meyers-Martin and Dr. Roberson, for this life-saving legislation. We look forward to moving things forward. And on behalf of Dr. Green, thank you all so much for being here today. Have a great day.
And we can put this back in the envelope and then make sure she gets it afterwards.